community and technical colleges who are in CTC Link, no later than the first full quarter after our colleges move on to the CTC Link, they have to start implementing OER labeling. So if your colleges are not part of the CTC Link colleges, then you're off the hook for now. But I know that we have 6 other colleges coming in through group 2 and 3. And you guys are actually getting some legislative funding. It is exciting. You know, a lump sum of money coming, and then full statewide suite of service coming, all the policy training coming. So don't be afraid, and just let's start having conversation. And with that background, I was, again, since I realized that I can't really give you 1 hour of full detailed the overview, I'm gonna just play this video introduction that we created from our office. And this actually wanted to mention that it only addresses the essence of the policy. It doesn't address every single cases. So you might have questions, oh, what about my case? It doesn't seem like it's going to be covered, but most of them are covered. So I think that this is just a really bird's eye overview, principles only kind of video.
Welcome to the Washington State Board for Community and Technical Colleges OER and Low-Cost Course Labeling Policy video. Our colleges have spent years promoting the use of more affordable course materials, such as Open Educational Resources, or OER for short. As a result, we have thousands of faculty members in our system using affordable course materials, and their students have reaped the rewards. However, even with this success, students were still having difficulty locating courses that use OER or other affordable materials. It was mainly by luck that they ended up registering for these courses. In order to help our students make more informed choices, we developed a policy that shows which courses use affordable course materials. 3 statewide studies, including 1 student survey with 10,000 responses, produced 2 labeling policies. One identifies the courses where all required instructional materials are OER. The other identifies courses where combined costs of the required instructional materials are $50 or less. But what do we mean by instructional materials? When we discuss these 2 labels, the only instructional resources that matter are textbooks, websites, software programs, applications, courseware packages, and homework site access codes. The cost of supplies such as lab coats, goggles, or art materials is not included. Also, any course fees such as lab fees or test fees and small printing costs are not included. If instructors expect students to print some of the materials, this expense should not be factored into the labeling considerations. So let's review some key ideas of OER labeling. Number 1, to be labeled as OER, the course should use Open Educational Resources as the required instructional materials. This allows their free use, repurposing, and sharing. Number 2, the course materials should be composed of copyright-cleared materials only, such as works with open licenses, works in the public domain, works with permission from the copyright owner, or the faculty member's original works. Number 3, courses that traditionally do not require any course materials, such as a yoga or dance class, are not to be labeled as an OER course. These types of courses should be labeled as low cost. Now, some key elements of the low-cost labeling policy. Number 1, the combined cost of the required instructional materials should be $50 or less. This threshold is based on the pre-tax retail price. This applies to each course, regardless of the number of credits offered. Number 2, the low-cost label is perfect for labeling courses with affordable course materials that do not necessarily fit all the criteria to be labeled as OER. Just remember, the total cost has to be $50 or less. Number 3, prorating the book cost based on the number of credits or number of courses used is not allowed. For example, a $100 textbook spanning 2 quarters is not low cost as it cannot be prorated 50-50. Number 4, the threshold is based on the price offered at the campus bookstore or charged by the publisher directly, whichever is lower. The prices offered by third-party vendors such as Amazon.com are not considered due to price fluctuation and uncertainty of stock availability. Number 5, you can consider the cost of used, rented, and older editions of the materials. However, for these to be included in low-cost labeling, the campus bookstore or publisher must have sufficient stock for all students enrolled. To learn more, check out our full labeling policy implementation guide at tinyurl.com/openwa-label. It features scenarios and tools that help you select a label that's suitable for your course. Thanks for watching and happy labeling!
Thanks to a lot of voluntary support from our agency staff, we only spent $60 to create the video. So let me know if you're curious how we did it. So one last thing that I wanted to show before my 10 minutes is over is that we have created this resource page, the OER and low-cost labeling implementation guide. It has this comprehensive labeling guide that has all the detailed explanation and all the qualifying cases and exceptions and all of those, itty-bitty details that you wanted to know about the labeling system. And we have created this the list of sample cases with the sort of as case study looking scenarios that, it says over here, if you go, Professor Zbornek uses opening last textbook for her Statistics 101 class, you get the idea. So there are like about 20 or so cases, and I'm increasing the cases each time I hear the feedback. So do let me know if you think of a special case that you think that could be really benefited to be added here. And there is this OER and low-cost labeling tool. And so this is sort of like a decision-making kind of tool. So you just answer a few, questions, and based on the answer you chose, it may recommend most suitable the decisions for you. Oh my God, based on my decision, it cannot be labeled. Oh, that's not what anyway, so, and then there is this video introduction that you have watched. So that's the what we have so far. And I'm sorry that I organized the first state webinar yesterday when most of you are traveling. That's my total mistake. I don't have an excuse. I just didn't think about it. So we are offering another one, September 10th at 11 a.m. in the same address, and I'm going to send out an announcement soon. So if you want to come and want to send anybody, you're more than welcome to. We actually had we had a ton of people on the first webinar, and I think there is a great interest. So thank you. That's it. September 10th.
Thank you, Bo-Young. So that was a great sort of really bird's eye view of labeling. But we thought it would be really helpful to offer what it looks like on the ground at TCC. So we've been labeling at TCC for about 3 years, 2-3 years now. We went live with CTC Link in 2015. And so had to move towards labeling very quickly before the state board was really ready with its guidelines. So we've been figuring things out on the fly, you could say. And the end goal of labeling is great. We totally support that. It's better for the students. They can clearly choose, and when they're choosing classes, they can very clearly see what type of courses they're signing up for, and especially with OER and low cost. That's the beautiful end goal. The process for getting there is not always pretty. And so what we thought we would do is just sort of give you a snapshot in 10 minutes or around 10-ish minutes of what that has looked like, and it's still looking like at TCC. We're still trying to work our way through those challenges. One of the big things that you'll discover, even if you're already doing course labeling in your current system, is that with CTC Link, it's really a systemic change. All the processes at your college have to change and become more consolidated. There's not as much siloed work. So there are many points of collaboration that really have to happen. And so with course labeling, that is also very, very true. So the course labeling and CTC link, they're referred to as course attributes. And of course, there's the OER and the low-cost attribute. There's also a course note that can accompany those attributes, and that can be very important if you haven't set up what is known as the textbook tab, and Christopher will talk about that in a little bit. But the note accompanies one of these classes and basically explains what that label means. So if a student is searching for a class, they may not know what OER means, okay? They may not know what low cost means, so the note is very important to have. So the ideal model, you all have probably course builders, people who enter that course information. How are they getting that course information? Is it a consolidated process? Centralized process for your campus? Do you have a different process in each division? At TCC, we really do. The ideal model, and something we're working towards, is to use some type of centralized database to collect all of that course information. And then multiple people can access it. Faculty can input that information, department chairs, admin assistants, instead of a different process for each division. That different process creates a lot of chaos. And you can see, I'm not going to go through bullet point by bullet point, but at TCC, every division, each division does it differently. As a result, there's a lot of holes that happen. Okay, courses are not labeled correctly, they're not even communicated. Some courses are not labeled that are OER or low cost are not even labeled because of sort of that chaotic process. And so how do we address those inconsistencies? Well, so far it's been sort of through proactive and reactive measures. We're working towards a more consolidated approach. But you can see we have some resources up here that we use right now. We have an OE steering group that works really closely together on these issues. And so we send out nudges to faculty and staff, reminding them to appropriately label their courses. We have a class attribute request form where we can sort of retroactively go in and clean things up. Christopher has created a great how to find OER and low-cost textbook video for students on the front end, so they are more informed about how to search for these classes.
And
What's that?
And a video.
Yes. And so Christopher's going to take it from here and talk about some other issues that are very importantly tied and closely tied to labeling. There's RCW and then a bookstore work. Those issues are very important too.
Yeah, so I'll dive into a couple of things first, and then I'm going to show you some actual screenshots. What it actually looks like. So there's this RCW. We got to do this thing. We got to do this thing. So we got to have the information to students at the time they register. And the issue with this is it has to be done at the time the course is constructed. So the textbook and the instructor has to be picked at that time. And you know, you can see how it goes on and on, becoming more and more complicated with course scheduling and who's going to assign to which course, and does the division or department pick all the same textbook, or do they pick different ones? So we have this policy, bunch of words on the screen, it's all boring, but I'd be happy to share our policy with you. This is essentially the text of the policy. We also have additional things that help define what is OER, what is low cost, and we've worked with faculty to get them to understand it, because they're the ones ultimately reporting this information to getting that to the admin assistant. So, you know, right now we have an Excel file that the program chair has, and they have a column that says OER. The faculty report that to the program chair. The program chair reports that to the admin assistant. So getting the faculty aware of what is OER, what is low cost, because they're the ones self-reporting. And then as we work with them, we help define that. So here's what it actually, also we want to make sure we work with the bookstore, because there's a whole separate process for getting them the book information. Yeah, so include them. So here's some actual screenshots. So here's what it looks like. Here's what an administrative assistant sees when they are creating a course in CTC Link. This is the information here. I'm going to zoom in here at the bottom. There's this class attributes section here. There's this OER here. So you pick class attributes to add onto the course. There's also a low cost option. So this is what we mean when we say labeling, adding this class attribute. So there's these class attributes here. You pull up this list. You pick the right one. So there's also additional tabs here. I'm kind of pointing out here, there's a notes and a textbook tab. Some of you in this room might be interested in that LMS data tab. That's a topic for another day. So if we go to the notes page here, you can click to pull up a note. You can see there's a very long list of notes. So I'm going to zoom in here a little bit, where there's an OER and low-cost notes, and it pops in that information automatically. There's also this textbook tab. And so I'll kind of zoom in here. If you look towards the bottom, there's three tabs there. There's course materials, details, and notes, where you put all that information in. Notice ours is blank. We're still working on this piece because we have all the information available through our online bookstore, but this is done by the course builders, which in some cases is not the administrative assistants. In most cases, it is. So getting all this information here is an additional piece of their workload and something to consider. And you build your process. So here's what it looks like for students. So this company, High Point, was, we paid them to make this mobile CTC Link mobile app. And essentially the mobile app is just a mobile web version with a container around it. So this is the mobile web version. You can also link to it. So there's this course attribute here, which is super intuitive for students when they're trying to find OER. Yeah. What is a course attribute? Talk about college speak. Anyways, yeah, so they can find their OER and low cost. And then there's, you see there's, I kind of highlighted there, the class notes. There's a link to buy books. And then you'll notice textbook/materials says to be determined, which is not super. Here's what it looks like on the desktop version for the students. I'll zoom in a little bit here. You can see there's a lot of information there. At the very, very bottom, there's this thing called course attribute. That's why I made handouts and videos, and we talk to students. Go scroll down to the bottom and find the thing. And then they can pick OER, and they can hit search, and then they can find a course. And then, so here's where that information is. And so you see there's that class notes and textbooks and all the other info there. So here's kind of a one-to-one of what it looks like. So there's that on the left, I have the construction side. On the right, I have what it actually looks like to the students on the other end. And here's where that textbook information goes that would then be populated there. And there's also, we have our bookstore site. So we got all these processes, like how much does the book cost? Is it OER? Is it not OER? Who's going to be putting in that information in the textbook tab? So all stuff we're still working on figuring out. I also have this gamification challenge for faculty. They can earn points by doing things like making their courses accessible, doing QM stuff, working with me on VR. But also one of the things I have is to go and check to make sure that your course is appropriately attributed, has that course attribute in it, because we want good data. And if we're not going back and cleaning it up, or they're not reporting it right in the first place, then it looks like we don't have the OER that we do. And then I get to explain to the board why we have decreased OER usage when we really don't. Yeah, so the question, to repeat it for everybody online so they can hear, what happens, oh, I was just doing my 10-minute timer, trying to stay on time. So the question was, what happens when you switch instructors? So you would just change that information there. And yeah, so we've had cases, so the question was what happens when you switch and students, you have to make students pay. We have had specific cases where the course was labeled as OER. The instructor they switched to wanted to use a textbook, and the program chair and dean said, no, you're using OER. Because you can't just thrust that extra cost on students the last second. Yeah. So that's one way to address it.
Okay, so that was a lot of information. It was really quick. One of our goals here is to make this presentation and put a whole bunch in it so that you can refer to it later. The screenshots, I think, eventually could be very useful to you, hopefully. So apologies for cruising through it so quickly. But we want to keep it short and open for your questions. Just to recap, though, there are many, many players, again, in labeling. It's sort of a game change for processes. So you can see at TCC, these are the major players. There's probably more involved that I haven't listed here. Go ahead, Chris. And again, the pieces and the challenges. One of the big challenges, again, that we're really struggling with is the role of the course builders or admin assistants and how their jobs with CTC Link have exponentially mushroomed, right? And the reason we're not really using the textbook tab yet, and we're trying to figure out how to, is because they're not sure how they can fit that into their job duties, okay? So even though that textbook tab is not just important, it's an RCW, really. You know, we really need to start fully using that, but we have to figure structurally how to do that. Yeah, and then of course the benefits are great with labeling. I mean, it really speaks to our end goals with reducing barriers for students. So this is something that we support and that we really want to do, even if it's a struggle and that there are many obstacles to it. And that's that. So we, like I said, we wanted to leave open questions. So yes, ma'am.
So the question was, for example, if you were to put a low-cost label on a particular section of a course and you had 10 sections of that course, would you have to do it once or 10 times? You have to do it 10 times. Also, if you were, and you needed to put the price of the textbook and the ISBN and the author 10 times. That puts a lot of work on the admin assistants. And then it changes and you have to go back and update it and you have to fix it. And so you can see where it gets more complicated on workload and
just to help with the administrative cost that could possibly come up because of this work. So this was not an unfunded mandate from the legislature. There is a clear funding attached to it. And then we are getting a certain amount of money from the legislature every year to help with the colleges. So those monies will first go to the colleges who are coming up for the next round of CTC Link deployment. So there is a way to cover up some of the costs. I know that it's not going to be just an administrative cost, but just letting you know that it's not going to be just doing out of nowhere without any support at all.
Yeah, it's $80,000 every biennium split between all the colleges. Oh, it's not that one? It's actually $42,000. No, it was $42,000 each year.
It's going to be a
The question was, can this be done in a spreadsheet and imported? No, it all has to be manually clicked in. Go ahead, Christy.
Hi, Christy Farrell. As I talk to my colleagues across the state, including this week, I hear over and over, well, I don't have CTC Link for 2 years. I don't have to worry about it. I want to highly, highly encourage you to start this conversation now, because these processes that Candace has described and getting the policy through your college can take a year or 2 years. And faculty sometimes select book adoptions for a whole year. And so like we're at the situation at Olympic College where faculty just made book selections for a year, found out we're going to get CTC Link in February, found out about the label and said, wait, we wish we'd known that but when we made our book selections. So don't think I don't get CTC Link for a while, so I don't have to worry about this yet. Start the conversation.
Yeah, so I because I'm doing OER stuff, I was on a group that we took the textbook adoption policy through. We essentially just copy and pasted the RCW and changed a couple words like the colleges to TCC. And so that was really what our textbook adoption policy was. But yeah, that took 2 years to get through shared governance and get updated. So to kind of repeat for the people online, yeah, so essentially it was you have to schedule, there's a lot of complications and lead time involved in scheduling and constructing of courses. And so faculty may or may not even know the textbook they're using that far ahead. So have a good process.
Just to add something to that question, so the policy strongly emphasizes that do not label your course unless you are very, very certain that it's going to happen. So you cannot do it based on the assumption or what happened in the past with the particular section. So, and then so it is not to the maximum applicability. It is you can only do it when you are sure. I mean, when you are almost certain.
If there's no instructor assigned yet, you don't have to have that information posted. That's in the RCW.
I was just wondering, so the screenshots you were showing us in CTC link that show for the textbooks, is there a place, having not seen it yet, where it shows course fees? Because I worry about students thinking, oh, there's no fees, but I'm a dental student and I still have a $200 dental package. But, you know, so is there still a place in CTC link where students are able to search where their fees are going to come from too?
In the class search, there's not a fees field.
Okay.
But they would see it after when they registered, or oftentimes you'd put that information in a course note, like we had the OER, and say, oh, there's a fee associated with this. You'd put all that information there.
What we are working on at the state board level in terms of CTC link implementation is that right now those course note appears after you selected the course using the course attribute. We are trying to figure out a way to have the information appear before student, right, probably next to those course attributes, those in a way that makes sense to the students, so they know what we meant by Open Education OER course attribute. So we are working on it.
Go ahead, Dale.
Thanks. Hey, my name is Dale Coleman. I'm instructional designer and open education coordinator at Tacoma Community College. And I just wanted to reinforce, there were slides where Candace mentioned the Open Education Steering Committee at TCC. And it's so essential to our process to have a consolidated group where we can make strategic decisions that incorporate all the invested stakeholders, because this will affect your bookstore, it will affect your library, it's going to affect ed tech. So the more, in order to make decisions and be agile and be able to come to a consensus where everyone is happy and feels fully invested, I would definitely encourage you to at least start those conversations and find out who those key stakeholders are on campus and bring them into the conversation as early as possible.
Yeah, hi, Wade Guidry, CTC Library Consortium. I've got kind of a three-part question, I think. A, has the process of tagging courses or course materials actually increased the prevalence of low-cost material usage, and has it created peer pressure among faculty to do so? Part B, does the presence of the tagging increase student enrollment or make those courses more popular than alternatives?
Well, so we have some initial information, and we're continuing to look at that to show that students enrolling in OER courses get us more SAI points. So we have better retention, we get better performance-based funding than the students not enrolled in OER courses. So that's cool. And I've also seen, to sort of build on that, faculty use that label as a leverage for pricing with tech publishers. Get me under 50, or I'm not going to use you. So that's another thing I've seen.
Yeah. And then the third part of the question, either at the state board level or the institutional level, has there been any discussion of phasing in targets or even requirements for use, like 25% of courses need to be OER or low cost? I mean, is that?
We have to, there's requirements in the RCW to report the ones we've done, but there's no requirements on how much we should use. I'm all about it, but.
So that's a great question, especially the last one. We don't have any intention to actually add that level of regulation on colleges. However, in terms of data though, right now the mechanism that are set is that we can only get the number of courses from each CTC link colleges that are labeled either OER or low cost. That data we can easily pull. However, our plan is that we will like to connect the data to those other various data from data warehouse so that we can get the complete set of more comprehensive data where we can tell exactly how those courses that use open educational resources or low-cost materials do and how students do differently. And so much more intensive quantitative measure we'll be able to do. And once our 34 colleges move into the CTC link, we'll be able to finally have this population data where we don't need to do sampling anymore. We will be able to tell the total number of courses labeled OER or low cost in this particular quarter from entire 34 colleges. So that's sort of the kind of level of data that no other states ever had. So I'm really excited about it, which will tell us a lot.
Just to address your question about, well, two things. The part about students and OER labeling being used as like an incentive for students to register in specific classes. I think what it can do is it's a very effective tool for starting a conversation with students, and you can make it very explicit if they know how they can select OER courses. You'll find that students are naturally activated around this issue. We've had the benefit of having a very active student government that has made open education a priority, both at the institutional level and in their advocacy in Olympia. So they contacted us and worked with us on campaigns to raise awareness among students and faculty for OER initiatives. So definitely students can be an extremely effective sort of engine for advocacy, and they can really steer the movement. And since they're the chief beneficiaries, that's really important. And also, I'm sorry for monologuing, this is not my presentation. But regarding the bit about phasing in targets, while they're obviously, or they're not doing that at the state level, Christopher has been very intentional in baking goals around open education into our strategic planning process. So if you have this data, you can use it institutionally to drive sort of initiatives around open education.
Any other questions? Yeah.
This is Ariana. Maybe this was already stated, but who originally initiated this dialogue on your campus? Who sort of said, hey, we need to be talking about this, let's convene a steering committee?
Oh, we had a really cool thing to kick off. We had a like save $100,000 or something, which we blew past pretty quick. But it was a split funding between like student government and e-learning and the college operating dollars to kick off a 2-year project that obviously has grown. So yeah, getting students involved is pretty.
And that was the beginning of OER, but your question is more about the labeling.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so the labeling came about after we went live with CTC Link in 2015. Per the RCW, we had to get our stuff in gear and figure out how to label courses. We, about that time, had formed the OE steering group. Christy Fiera was there at that time. So that helped tremendously in, there's a lot of things to think through, and you need multiple perspectives to think through these issues. We had many long conversations about how to get going with these things, and many of the original strategies and approaches that we started out with have changed now. But again, the key really was that steering committee and being able to move forward with a lot of this stuff.
Students advocated to get that RCW in place. So that's why we're doing this thing.
Well, now.
So the question was, who was on the steering committee?
Yeah. Yeah, sure. Right, yeah. Library director, e-learning director, OER librarian, instructional designer from e-learning. We have 2 bookstore positions represented, and we'd like to expand it too. But right now, actually we also have a student. The president of the student body serves on the committee or the group, and we have one, Kyle's position. What's he do? Random staff person who has great input. Yeah.
This is Jackie from Walla Walla Community College, and I was really wanted to ask about outreach you did to the administrative assistants. You know, that I really am so glad, you know, that we're conscientious of our admin assistants and the workload they're taking on. Did you do road shows to talk about this process, or did you just, it sounds like you didn't incorporate them as part of the committee, which makes sense, but how did you do your messaging and kind of communication with them? I'm already thinking, how should I do this? Should I do workshops? Should I do?
Yeah, originally we spent about a year going around to the different groups on campus, including admin assistants, and plugging this. Christopher?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
So yeah, we showed it to them. We want to be cognizant of their workload, and as you can see, this there's a lot to it, and so we need to develop better processes to be more efficient with their workload and with their time to be able to tackle this more efficiently. So
I would also say that, you know, our work and progress stalled a little bit. And what it stalled because we're waiting for that admin assistant position to evolve and for the college to figure out how they're going to fairly and equitably treat the people in this position so that it's loaded. So we're at a point where we're making recommendations to consolidate a lot of these processes. We're going to the dean team in a couple weeks with these recommendations, but one very important hinging element will be the admin assistants, which the answer to that hasn't been determined. So it still hinges really a lot on that.
Yeah, no, I think so. So, okay, thank you.
The biggest challenge and solution both is communication. It's the communication workflow. So one of the first questions to ask is, okay, for your division, who builds the course schedule in CTC Link? Who do faculty give their information to find out in the bookstore? And like what we've determined at Olympic, like TCC, it's very different across the college. In some divisions, this is going to be easier because it's the same person that has the bookstore, that collects the information on the book and builds the course schedule. So then they have the information they need when they're building the schedule. In other divisions where there's a certain person that builds the course schedule and someone else that faculty turn in their bookstore information to, or in cases, some colleges, the faculty give their information straight to the bookstore, that's where you have to come up with a communication path. Whether it's a spreadsheet in a Google Doc that's live that everyone has access to. But again, the challenge and the solution is all about the communication flow, and that's where the questions need to start.
Very good point. Thank you, Christy. So we want to be mindful of time. Do we have time for maybe one more question? Anybody have one? Everything is wrung dry. Okay.
This is Tammy from Yakima. I have a question about what was the role of the library, or how did all of this affect the library?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, I mean, OER is an elemental part of our library at TCC. We have a librarian who's devoted to that work. So we focused, you know, more on the overall OER, moving OER forward as a whole. We consider the library a part of that. So, I mean, it's hard to answer. I mean, a direct impact on the library is that it raises the visibility of the library. I guess you could say that. The library is known as a full partner in this work, along with e-learning. And we're always at the table of these discussions. We're always part of, you know, the center of the work that's taking place to make these changes happen. So I guess you could say that that's probably been the biggest impact for the library.
Thanks.
Oh, and plus, oh, that's good, Christy, thank you. Yeah, our OER librarian has been fantastic in creating resources to support this work. She's created OER guides for faculty that are heavily used, OER guides for students that are heavily used, the FAQ for course labeling for faculty and admin assistants. She created that as well. So she is a huge part of the entire effort.
Yeah, a little bit more about the OER librarian position and how critical it is. Not only does our OER librarian create these fantastic resources, but she also is very active in the conversations around OER, especially in the library space. So she's able to not only create guides for faculties, but she monitors domain spaces or subject areas, and very, very frequently faculty will come to us with a question about a course. Abnormal psychology is one example where Jennifer went out into the space and could not locate resources that the subject matter expert or faculty member was happy with. But then we came back to it 6 months later. There were new resources, and now we have like one of our second or third highest enrolled psychology class in the process of being converted to OER. So in terms of like that direct liaison work with faculty, where if you're a librarian, you already know all about this. I'm also a librarian, even though I'm not in the library anymore. But yeah, these are key players in OER, both like on the ground and in the broader space. And since this whole movement is built around sharing, this is sort of our next phase, is sharing out all the work that we're doing. The library will play a key role in that as well.
No Creative Commons license and openly share everything I do around this process.
So what now after this? You probably wonder who you should have in your group and what kind of conversation you have to have. So at this point, I like to recommend that we all just wanted to have a basic understanding and perception of the labeling done. So I'll start sending people to the training opportunities that we're going to keep sending out. And then this is not going to be just another webinar, but we are something that we are planning to make it as a series. And also at the state board, now that this establishment of the policy was finished after 5 rounds of statewide surveys on endless approval process and all these guidelines fully developed. Now our plan to go from here is that we wanted to establish a suite of comprehensive suite of service, entire infrastructure of support for college use of these labeling system, which it's impossible for the state board to make alone without support. So we wanted to team up with the system, with all the councils and commissions, and with the colleges who have done fantastic jobs like TCC, and then so we will continuously provide trainings and just discuss together, brainstorm together what will be those critical elements to be added, those infrastructure of support that I mentioned. I mean, will it be only professional development and policy and research? Or should there be a networking, communication, and marketing as well? Should there be a research and then feedback loop too? If so, then how should they be all integrated cohesively so that we can all grow together and finally implement the policy that, that nobody think that was possible like 5 years ago. So, there's one thing that I wanted to emphasize is that we are, as far as I know, the only state who actually have an implementation mechanism for this kind of the law requirement. We have 3 or 4 other states who suddenly just pass this legislation and then nobody knows what to do with it. It doesn't have any implementation structure, but we do, and we have this supporting structure and then supporting council. So I think we have a great hope to make this thing real. So thank you so much. Let us know and come to the webinar on the 10th.
So I just wanted to mention before we leave, because I know that we want to stay on track, but there were a couple other great ideas presented for possible activities today. One was a joint letter writing activity, and that was proposed by ELC. And the other was the creation of an OER community of practice, joint ELC, LLC, to continue to talk about OER issues together and to move forward with those together. Is there any interest in taking these 2 items and moving forward online over the next year and working on those?
Yes.
So is there maybe a couple of volunteers who want to serve as a point person for maybe coordinating this work, or go ahead. Dale, would you like to explain that?
Sure. So we were approached by a student government group toward the end or middle of the last academic year, and students were really activated around this issue, and they wanted to find a way that they could do some direct action work to advocate for OER on campus. Their first idea was to write angry letters to all of their instructors who were not using open educational resources, and we had a conversation where that idea sort of flipped, and students decided they would write thank you letters to their instructors who are already using OER. So, and this was a very successful campaign. They set up a table in the student center, and for 3 days, I think, students would come. There was a list of all the faculty who were using OER, and they could write. They had stacks and stacks of thank you letters that they wrote little notes to their instructors, and then those were distributed to the instructors. So we, in a previous ELC conversation, when we were kicking around ideas, we thought this might be something that could potentially scale to the statewide level, but it's just an idea.
Yeah. So just really quick, maybe a couple of volunteers to step forward to serve as a contact person to move these 2 items forward. Letter writing person? Yeah, okay, all right. I just have a feeling it's not gonna happen, so, okay. Working group person? Well, I tell you what, let's just put this on the table and then we'll figure it out later. Anyway, thank you so much for your time. Thank you to Christopher and Dale and Bo Young.
Thank you for that session. Next up on our agenda, we have 20 minutes for an update from State Board Educational Technology. I believe Alyssa is going to start us off. Is that correct? Yeah, come on up.
Got a mic here for you.
Alyssa has a link she'd like to send. So can we put a document into the LLC agenda? Yeah, I can send it.
All right. Is this on? Can you hear me? Okay. Okay, cool. Oh, I have lipstick on. It's going to be purple by the time we're done. All right, so they're going to pull up a document for us. It's not because it's a document I'm going to go through with you. It's just a document I want you to see. I guess it's going to go in your agenda now, which was going to be one of my questions of how could I share it with you. So I guess everyone already has access to it, so that'll be good. All right, so I'm going to talk about just a few minutes about a course design checklist that we're developing for online courses. Most of the ELC folks probably have already heard me talk about this millions of times, but the librarians might not know in the room, might not have spread to you all yet, although I have had the opportunity to interact with Quill, so it is possible that she has shared some of the information with you. So about 2 years ago, a group of Quality Matters coordinators that well, wrangle cats, and okay, perfect. Okay, you can pull it up on the screen if you'd like. Thank you. Okay, so I work with a group of coordinators. We have one coordinator on each campus, and some of them volunteered to help me write up some sort of a rubric or checklist that we could give to faculty that contains like the very essential basic things, like what's the very minimum thing that you could do to have quality in an online course. I've lived through the crying students in my dining room doing their homework for online classes, so that's like a personal passion of mine. And I want to make it better for my kids. I want to make it better for your kids. I want to make it better for all of our students who aren't kids, everyone. So that's kind of where this idea came from. I've been talking about this like nonstop for about 2 years. We try to be really transparent about the process. It did start with a small group of us. We reviewed, I'd say, I think 15 rubrics from across different colleges. QM was one of them. We actually even went back to the original CC BY version of the Quality Matters rubric that was released way a long time ago. So we tried to do due diligence there. We took pieces that we liked from all of them. And the problem we were trying to solve is for quality assurance. Quality Matters is an awesome product. It is just a product. It is a process also, but it's something we might not always have access to. So we thought maybe something sustainable that was ours, that we could infuse some things into that were of specific importance to our system would be good, and I'll tell you what those are in a minute. We also wanted it to be an open resource, so it is going to be labeled, or is already labeled, as OER. We're on revision 2 right now. I've presented on it at the annual Canvas conference 2 years in a row, and I spent the last year doing faculty focus groups with different faculty on different campuses, and I also did sets of student focus groups. So I've heard from students, I've heard from faculty. From that, we made revisions to the first version. Then we got version 2. I gave version 2 to a team of instructional designers that volunteered to participate with me, and we are in the midst of wrapping up that focus group conversation. We're working on version 3, and hopefully this fall, we'll be sending out a statewide survey to faculty to get some additional input on a more finished product for us. I don't want to talk too long about this. I'd really love to answer some questions. I don't know what questions you might have about this. I know a lot of librarians do instructional design work, so I think this might be a good tool for you, and I'd love to share it with you and chat with you all about it. A lot of our colleges are hoping to use it too. Dale's already on task with it. He's already developing. Christy has some professional development things for their faculty to go along with that. So if you want to scroll through and go to the first page, there's 4 sections. There's one on course design, there's one on assessment, there's one on outcomes and objectives, and there's one on course materials. Low cost is covered in there, OER is covered in there, things we're passionate about in our system, equity and inclusion, open resources. There's a huge section on accessibility. So I hope that you all like it, and happy to answer any questions you have. Dale.
Could you talk a little bit about what you're doing about support resources and implementation stuff when we get to that stage? I think that'd be useful.
Okay, so right now we're still in development, obviously, as I mentioned. Next steps, we have a Quality Matters Quality Assurance Retreat where my coordinators will come, and we're going to start developing support resources to go along with this. How many of you are familiar with Canvas? Okay. How many of you have ever looked anything up in the Canvas guides? You know what those are? Okay. So the goal here is to have some sort of course design guide that goes along and supports each one of these indicators and standards in the checklist. So I would love to give it to faculty in the form of an actual checklist. Have you, or how have you, and then they could use it as like a self-assessment tool. But also the intent is to use this as a rubric. Optional, voluntary, but there would be a professional development piece that went along with this, and we'd like to bake some sort of course review process into that professional development where faculty would do a self-assessment, identify areas that they were interested in working on in their class, have them make revisions over time, whatever amount of time it takes them, and then have them do a secondary, like a reflection, another self-assessment with a reflection, pair them up with somebody else who would like to have their course looked at with fresh eyes by someone else, so a peer review situation, and then probably the facilitators of the course would also take a peek at it. And then I'm kind of stuck at that point. I'm thinking we need to kick it back to the colleges to have them look at the courses for college-specific things that need to be there. Like, there's no way I can know what needs to go in 34 different colleges syllabi. So I think it'd be harder for us to do that from a state level. But if we could kick it back to the IDs at the campuses and have them just do a check of whatever the college needs to be in there is sort of the plan right now. So, okay, what else? Other questions? Was that too much information? Well, okay, anybody else? Yes.
I think it's just
Okay, let's do the online question first. Go ahead.
That might be me. This is Jackie from Walla Walla. This is so exciting. I'm just like absorbing it, and my feeble brain is catching up here. So this is really exciting. I can I wonder, I love the idea of creating like almost like a mini like peer group within the state of discipline faculty. I think that's really great to connect folks, not only from a teaching point of view, but I found it really helpful from an OER development point of view. This might be too much of a challenge, but I wonder, again, considering that we're all different, as you just mentioned, potentially, do you think you'll have like a template course set up in Canvas or Canvas Commons, something that kind of this is a sample course that exemplifies all these things that we can point faculty to, saying, okay, and here's what it looks like in real life. Here's the rubric, but here's then an example of what this really can look like. Sometimes for somebody they might see it better that way. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes total sense. So part of the goal of this would be to collect all of those teaching materials and tips and things that we can point to for faculty to use as examples. I would also hope that our own training would model all of those things so that they might not need to go too far out of the classroom to find some examples. But I think it would be really great if we could get some STEM examples, some arts examples, different disciplines, so that we have examples that apply to everyone. Yeah, so I think that's a great idea. Thank you.
Oh yeah, in fact, maybe as soon as a couple peer reviews have gone through, so maybe some of those faculty would be willing to share their examples.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea too, a good way to contact people to see if they'd be willing to share. Okay, Ariana?
So is there do you have a particular vision for how this rubric should be pushed on the campuses, disseminated, or is it really a matter of however the communication processes work per campus? Or is there a best practice guide that you've been thinking about?
All right, I hope to have more. Did everybody hear Ariana's question? Okay. All right, so I hope to have more information on that probably in a couple months. Our coordinator retreat is the first week of October, and this is one of the things that we're going to be talking about. And I'm hoping, I've invited faculty from the campuses to come, and planning to have a panel of faculty that we can talk to and have them share with us what their needs are. I don't want to ever presume I know what faculty need. I want to get it straight from them. And then everybody has different needs on their campuses. So yes, you would have to do whatever's best for your campus and your faculty. And this is, again, an optional thing. It's not meant to necessarily replace QM. It's an add-on to it, but it could replace QM as some form of a course review process for the colleges that can't afford to go through the complete QM process, because we do support QM training. All of you have access to Quality Matters training for yourselves, for your administrators, for your staff, for your faculty on your campuses. But what we don't support is the $1,000 per course fee to have the course officially reviewed. So I would try to find a sustainable way to put all of that together. But I do want to hear from faculty how they think the best ways for them to adopt the practices are. I would never push it on anybody. It's not ever going to be a requirement unless you make it a requirement on your individual campuses. I know some schools are interested in doing that, but it gets us kind of all together doing the same thing. It gives consistency. So yeah, I don't really have all the answers you need right now. But you also have to look at your own leadership styles, and that's something we're going to talk to our coordinators about. Best communication methods, building trust. I really don't want this to be a passing fad. We worked really hard to align this with other system initiatives and things that are really important, and things that people are passionate about. And I think student success, I think we could all agree, is something that we're all really into. Okay, anyone else? Other question online? Oh, okay, you want to read it?
So from LLC, Greg says, this will connect well with our exploration of the transparency framework at LW Tech.
Awesome. Transparency. Tilt is built into this too. I forgot to mention that. UDL stuff's in there. Anything that we could pack in there it's not packed in there in a way that it's called out. This is Universal Design for Learning, or this is Tilt. but it is aligned with those things, and those ideas will be used as reference points and guides for the faculty. I do have another link that I will make sure to get to you that you can put in there. I have a form set up where you can contribute your favorite teaching resources, and those are all going to be the things that we use to help develop the guides pages. So if you have an awesome book you've read, a website that you love, a best practice for teaching, some awesome online activity, whatever it is, please share those with me, and we'll make sure to get that straight to faculty. Okay? I think I'm done unless there's more questions. Hopefully I didn't go too long.
No, great, thank you. State Board, you have about 2 or 3 more minutes if you have any other quick updates you'd like to give.
Yeah, it's more or less news or notes this time. We often supply big documents with long lists of all our wonderful accomplishments and things our wonderful people are doing. No, it's just news and notes today. The first bit of news is we did, I don't know, I think most of you are aware that we were, because of some accessibility issues in CTC Link, the project was going to do an RFP for accessibility remediation and testing services. Thanks to some of you, especially ITC people also, there was a notion that that contract should be available to all the colleges in the system all the time. And because we had some work to do in ed tech around analysis and remediation of our e-tutoring pages and software, we decided to test out our kind of app store process. So the result of that RFP is we have contracts with 3 different vendors currently: Level Access, DQ, and Steve, what was it, CodeSmart? CodeSmart. And they're basically 3 different price points. They can do a lot of different services, and we will get those contracts posted so that you can see them and use them as soon as we know everything's okay. What you'll be required to do in that convenience contract world is create a statement of work and submit it to the vendor or multiple vendors. You can get bids and see who can do what you need and who can do it most expeditiously or cheaply. So maybe a minor step forward in the accessibility discussion, but kind of a major step forward in hopefully what'll be the future of using those convenience style contracts, the kind of things we hope to post in the App Store when that gets developed. I would say the big lift, besides what you've heard from Bo Young and Alyssa already, which the other big lift in our department over the past few months has been, well, Steve and Paul Kramer and Sarah Bergfeld completely retooling and relaunching etutoring.org. And yeah, I just want to call them out and thank them for the work they did on that business modeling, figuring out overhead costs, figuring out the accessibility piece, Paul substituting Adobe Connect with Zoom in the new etutoring.org. Been having preliminary conversations. Before I say that, anyway, etutoring.org, thanks to some really hard work, is better than ever, and we're looking to see what the next step is. The next step is actually accessibility remediation on those pages, and Steve and other people are working with the vendors to find out what we need to do to get those, for one, just for the good reason that we need to do it, and for the other reason that we can't do business in California without pretty clean VPATs and the availability of pretty clean VPATs. So what else can we do? At the state board, we found that Carly Schiffner, the Deputy Director of Education, definitely has a different style of work than Jan Yoshiwara, much more hands-on, much more keyed to system and internal initiatives as guidelines for our work. So what she's asking everybody, but also the ed tech group, is that we work more explicitly to align our work with the equity and inclusiveness conversation and specifically with guided pathways. So we're I've been having a lot of preliminary conversations with Christy Wellington Baker about how she might get access to, or the schools might get access to, and use Canvas data as part of their kind of data portfolio for the kind of analytics work they hope to do in guided pathways environments. We've talked in kind of brainstorming ways, well, could we use etutoring.org and align some of the tutoring availability with meta majors and things like that. So we're really looking intentionally to prioritize and align our work with the Guided Pathways Project. One of the things that, of course, most of you probably know about that is it's funded at a very high level for the next, well, an indefinite amount of time, to the tune of like $32 million a year. So from the legislature. So there's going to be a lot of work. We're going to frame a lot of our work in those terms, and conversations with Christy and other Guided Pathways people are ongoing to figure out what exactly that means and what that looks like for us. I always like touch points. I always like things that say, well, why would you do this? Why would you prioritize that? Well, we prioritize that because it meets with state board initiatives and addresses state board initiatives and meets state board goals. So, excuse me, that's what we're looking at. And last but not least, now that Paul is done reworking the e-tutoring site, he's going to turn his attention to the long-promised App Store project, which I described a little bit in both these contexts over the course of the last few months. He'll start working on that in the fall, and hopefully we'll start identifying priorities for other convenience contracts that you can use for different kinds of software sometime in the next 6 to 9 months. And I think that's all I'm going to say. Go ahead, Christy.
So I want to thank you for all the great work to get these contracts in place that we can have a convenience contract to test accessibility. I'm also concerned that all of us, is there a way to connect that with some sort of communication hub? So for example, in my work on accessible design, I'm seeing a lot of problems with nursing publisher proprietary resources. We've done really great work across the state on policy, but we don't really have procedures in place now when we ask faculty, hey, think about accessibility before you adopt this textbook. But it takes a really strong skill set to be able to see that the screen reader lets you read the homework but not answer the homework. And it wouldn't be right for all of us to spend money on the testing. Is there a way to leverage, say, using nursing as an example, since they have very common course outcomes, if they happen to be looking at the same resource, that we could either combine to split the cost so it's tested once, or that then the purchasing power becomes so big and our negotiating power becomes so big that we ask the publisher to pay for the test versus paying for the test 30 times.
So I hate to interrupt. That's a fantastic question, but we're going to have to table it. We have Ward waiting for us to do a demo online right now when you stay on agenda, but we'll make sure that we circle back to that question. Thank you. Yeah, I'm sorry to have to do that, but we have a guest joining us. So Ward, are you with us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
So I'd like to introduce Ward from Whatcom, and he's going to be giving us a demonstration of some accessibility testing software available. And Ward, we can see your screen just fine. Take it away.
Okay. Years ago when Policy 188 first came out, we were all supposed to take an inventory of all of our software on campus and assess whether or not it's accessible, and you guys all know how all that worked. But we decided that it was going to be very daunting to try to keep track of all that in a spreadsheet. So we built an online database that kept track of it, where we can track all of the software. Our faculty and staff could log in and basically self-report what they use. We told them a list of stuff they didn't need to report that we knew they all used: Word, Excel, PowerPoint, all the usual stuff we have installed, but everything else they needed to report if it was required for them to do their job. And from that, we shared it with a couple people. They liked it, so we made the code available to all the colleges. A few of the colleges jumped on and started using it. When Cato was around, we decided that it was kind of crazy, all of us doing the same thing, repeating it over and over, every college reassessing everything on their own. Is there a way we could collaborate and all use one piece of software for tracking it? So we worked with Cato to basically redo it, host it under a state board URL, and make a database that the colleges could use and share information on what we're finding out about these. And as you'll see in a minute, there were a lot of areas added so that if we got professional testing done, like Mark was just talking about, the 3 companies they contracted with, or if we went forward and got our trusted tester program operating, there would be sections in there. So all the colleges can have access. We don't want to set up a dozen users at every college. We'd rather keep it down to 3 or 4. The IT accessibility coordinator, whoever's in charge of disabilities, whoever does the work that will be entering things or is kind of in charge of looking stuff up to determine whether or not it's accessible or not. We'd like to limit the counts to that to keep it a little manageable. But to get an account, all you have to do is send me your an email with your email address and your phone number requesting access, and we will give schools access. So here's the page, the login. Pretty simple. Your user account is your email. We'll set a generic password that you will then redo and change. This is the dashboard. It has a news section where if anything new comes out in the accessibility world that we really need to know about, Mark might want to put something up here about the 3 companies they just set up a contract with, stuff like that. It's there. It tells you the total number of products in the system, how many are assessed, and how many are compliant. As you can see, not very many are assessed or compliant because none of us are trusted testers, and none of us are professional testers. We haven't got to that part yet. Right now we're collecting software, we're inputting information. Any information you have, VPATs, compliance reports, anything can be put in there for that piece of software, but none of us basically, we believe, have the skills yet to truly assess to a legal degree whether or not something is accessible or not. That's what that trusted tester and third-party testing was for. So at some point, we'll probably have PeopleSoft in here once they finish the test on it. So it's pretty simple. Up at the top, you can get back to the dashboard. If you want to know how to use it, you go to instructions. They're pretty basic. If you find any corrections, spelling, anything, please submit it to me. I am not an English person, but all the instructions are here. It's fairly easy to use once you learn a few basic things. There's 2 main parts, searching and submitting. To search for a product, you click on that. It has this funky, fuzzy search criteria, but basically you'll see some basic things. There's 190 things, but as I type in, it will try to narrow it down. I can search. We just added one that we have just started purchasing, Atomic Search by Atomic Jolt. I can see that it's there. I can go by closest match. You can search by all these different types of ways. Ready for testing was designed for the trusted testers. That's basically if a trusted tester needs some work to do, wants to not do their other work right away, they can search for ones that are ready. Something that's ready means that there's enough people using it. We have VPATs already. We have information on it. There's enough information for them to get started. That is something that the administrators of the system would be checking the programs and submitting, hey, these are ready for testing, and that's the way they'd be able to look. Simple search, pretty basic. Any kind of criteria, it will come up with what it thinks you might want. If that's what you are looking for, you just click on it. Your other choice is an advanced search, where it adds a few more options. You can show products that are archived, If we have 6 people that enter Microsoft Word 2016, but they all decided to spell it a little differently or in different orders, we basically archive all but one, and this is how you can bring up those archived products. You can also search whether or not it's assessed or not, if it's compliant or not, or just by the institution you want to look at. So if we wanted to look at Lower Columbia, we'd click here. I'd take out Atomic. It'll show me all the software that Lower Columbia has entered. So we have a couple colleges that have put in a lot of information, and a few people who haven't put anything in, and a lot in between. So this is what Lower Columbia has entered, 4 pages of information. So going back to the basic search, if I was looking for Atomic Jolt, I found it. That's the one I wanted. It was not that one. I click on it, and this is what it comes up with. I am showing you as me logged in. I have more permissions than everyone. Not everyone can go in and rename or archive products, so everyone gets a few different things, but everyone who has access can come in from the community colleges and add products, search products, see all the main information on them. They won't be able to add an executive summary. They won't be able to assess a product or not and say whether or not it's accessible, but they will get to see all the major stuff and be able to do most stuff. So executive summary was there for someone at the state board or somewhere else that would come up with summaries of what this product is and whether or not it's accessible or something. That section's there. These things right here basically let you see any changes to the system. So on this program, I just entered it today, so there's no information, but later, if accessibility information was changed, if the summary was changed, if VPATs were updated, different things, you could look at that section and see for that product all the history on it. Overview, basically you put in key search words, so if someone searched for Atomic, it would come up, or search, or whatever you want, keywords. If there's a website, this is where it gets tricky. If what you are entering is a soft web-based program, then you would click this product is a website and you'd put the URL there. If it is not a web-based program, cloud-based program that you access through a browser, then you would just put the website, like I did, of where to find out about the company. So if one of you is looking and seeing, hey, Wacom's using a comic search, that looks very interesting, here's the website I go to. If this was a web-based app program that we're using here at the college, I'd put the actual website that the students or staff or whoever go to actually run it. This is where you can choose whether or not it's assessed or not. This will list the institutions. I just added this today, so no one else has had a chance to go in. It's as simple as when you do pick a product, if this was a product that I was searching that I did not have, it would put on here, add my institution, and all I do is click it, and it says, okay, Wacom's now using it. So it knows what college I'm associated with, and so you can just go through here and clicking away at which products your college also uses and adding yourself to that database. This one was added. What we'd like is for everyone to come in here once per year and update their products. So verify, yes, we still use this, or no, and remove it, remove your institution's use. Vendor with permission to access the product. This was set up in case we wanted to give vendors the ability to see what we think of their own product. We're not quite sure we want to do that. That could lead to some arguments about whether or not something's accessible or not, possibly some legal issues, but we figured it was easier to add it and not use it than have to rewrite it all later. So if we wanted to give Microsoft the ability to come in and see all the Microsofts, I would come in here as an administrator. I can specify right now we have two companies in there. I would just say Microsoft. If they logged in with a company associated to Microsoft, they would only see their products. We could also limit what they can see. So they would not see everything. We have private sections of private notes. They wouldn't see that stuff. They'd just see what we've made available to the public. Meets accessibility requirements. This has changed over time. It used to be not assessed, compliant, and not compliant. Most software is not 100% compliant, and if it is, wait a month for an update, and then something took it out of compliance. It could be something very, very simple, but to be compliant to Policy 188, it must meet every single thing in A and AA. If it's missing a single one and is not compliant, then it's not compliant. We decided to reword it to less compliant and more compliant for many different reasons, but this is where that is. And it's as easy, literally, as someone who has the rights, which are only trusted testers. They have the ability to say, just clicking on it, is it more compliant, less compliant, or whatever. If this is something that's ready for testing, that's where I check that box, and it'll say, okay, we're ready. This meets accessibility requirements. The plan was that it strictly meets Policy 188, which is what we're trying to meet. When we come up with a plan is to come up with a trusted tester program through the state board so that everyone comes up with a set of testing methodology that is exactly the same. The dictionary we use, the methodology, how we test everything, when we decide whether or not it meets that requirement or not, we'd have it all written down. That is what strictly would decide these. That requirements list would live here. So this would be a link to a page that lists exactly what makes something requirement, accessible or not. And basically, it'd be the WCAG 2.0 level A and AA checklist right now. But what screen readers it has to test with, what browsers it's compatible with, all that would be at that location. But right now, it's a blank link. It doesn't go anywhere because we do not have that document yet. VPATs. This is the section for VPATs. It shows the date and time it was uploaded, who uploaded it. It also lists the name of it. The VPAT accuracy, this is for the trusted tester or third-party testing. They're interchangeable. You can hire someone and just take their results and we can put it in there. But basically, is the VPAT accurate or inaccurate? It's not whether or not the VPAT says it's accessible or not. Is the VPAT accurate compared to the product? And there's comments. So you can put in there that it's section 4.2.1 is not accurate, and this is what you found. You can put as many notes as you want in there. This section is strictly for VPATs. You can have as many VPATs as you want. The idea is to have one VPAT that is the most accurate VPAT for the product you're evaluating. So if this is Atomic Search in 2019, I would prefer a VPAT filled out in 2019, but their website only lists one from 2018. That's why the comment states that it's from 2018. Once a 2019 comes out, I would add it, and I'd probably archive this one by clicking on Archive. And that way there's just the newest VPATs there. You'd still be able to look at all the other VPATs just by going over here and clicking on the backwards clock and see all the VPATs that have ever been entered and the comments with them. WCAG compliance, the same thing. We're just breaking it down. First we talk about is it compliant or not, and then we break down why we feel that way by the VPATs and the WCAG. So WCAG, it hasn't been assessed. If it was A, you click on A. List any issues that have been found with it. Can go in this section, and any general comments. This is not done by the normal user. It's those trusted testers and third-party testing. Same thing, as it changes, as the new assessments are made, you can look at all the historical information. WCAG supporting documentation is documentation supporting the WCAG review. We have at Wacom 2 blind employees that we have hired to do assessment and work and testing. And we have someone dedicated to document remediation. Cameron here his job is to test websites and applications. He went through and tested this for us. Talks about what he used, but it's literally a link to, let me see if I can get you to see this. This is just our internal document, but can you guys see this at all?
We are not seeing it, no.
Okay. Let me. Is that better?
We can see it now, thank you.
Okay. So it's just basically a checklist where he goes through, talks about how he tested, what he tested with. Cameron is almost completely blind. He uses JAWS every day for everything he does. Caleb, that works for us, also uses JAWS every day, but he's also uses a one-handed bat keyboard, so he can test for us that also. But basically, it goes through and breaks out level A into every little thing, and he'll put whether it passes, not accessible, or any kind of information and notes, and they go through each and every one just through the full level A and double A. So we'll close that. Can you see the main screen yet?
Nope, we are seeing just the Zoom room. We need you to share your screen.
Back now?
We got it now, thank you.
Okay. So that's what those are. They're just documents to support the WCAG review and for the trusted tester to have what other people have found. Any information you can get will help them make their assessment quicker and more accurately. So this is where people can upload whatever kind of information supporting WCAG. Screen reader testing, if we had stuff you can put in here. For screen reader, we haven't uploaded anything yet because we're not an official trusted tester, so can't, but you can pick whatever kind of screen reader is being used. It's really easy to add more. The idea is to add the product, the exact version, whether or not it's compatible or not, and any kind of issues or comments. Not everything is 100% compatible. Some little things with one browser will work better with JAWS than another with Chrome, and this is where you put it all, and you can just save it. And you can have as many of these as you want, so you can list them all by different versions and different products and have 10 or more there, notes for everyone to look at. And this is stuff you can all see. Overall product comments, this is where anyone can upload comments, what they're using it for, anything they found, the cost, anything. I put in here a bunch of information that we got from them on the state board, where all their flyers are, everything. So if someone's interested in the product, it has all types of information in here for them. And then those are comments, and then miscellaneous product files are for any file you have, whether it's a PDF, a Word doc, Excel, whatever, and it's associated with that product that someone might be interested in. There's a product we have, Alex, that they have a special directions for using JAWS keyboard shortcut. So we've uploaded that. That came from them. It's not all your normal everyday JAWS keys, so we loaded that there. But you can have as many product files as you want that might help someone who's trying to use the product or deal with its accessibility or all. This is the state board contract for Atomic Search that I uploaded. So anyone wants to know about it, it has all the information on there. And that explains what we have for the files, or for a product. Any questions on, the next thing I'll do is talk about submitting new products, but any questions on what we have is available for the product?
No, I think you're good. I don't see any hands.
Okay. So submitting a new product is really simple. Please be careful when you enter this. Put the vendor in the vendor part. Spell it right the first time. It makes our life a lot easier because it's a manual process for changing this. The product, the version, if the version is a web-based product, put the year in which you're entering it. There's a million versions that are updated daily, weekly, monthly. As you guys all know with Canvas, every month we get a new version. So we just put the best we can for version number. And then if there's a website associated with the company, yes.
Sorry to interrupt. We had a question online. Is there a plan for a public-facing version of any/all of the collected information from the compliance tracker? There have been numerous recent situations where folks working on projects across multiple colleges have been curious about software accessibility. For example, there has been a proposed project collecting VPATs of database websites.
I do not believe we have talked about making this publicly available to everyone. We are happy to make it available to employees of a CTC college, but the plan was never to make this. It's basically for our own use. We have talked about later maybe opening it up and sharing it with all colleges in the state. I know Western's interested, and UW was talking to us about collaborating on it, but we wanted to get something up and running first and worrying about us to start with, and once we get it up and going, if we need to collaborate with other colleges, then we can do that. But opening it up to the world, I don't know. Wasn't in Cato's wheelhouse right then. It's to fix the problem we're having right now, just between all of us doing all this work every single time. 30-something times evaluating one product is a little ridiculous. So right now, no, but that's something that we can all figure out. Cato's not running at the moment, but whatever group comes next or whoever, if we get started again, then that would be the group to talk to about it and see if we're at the point where making this a public thing would make sense or not. We have to be careful legally with what we're saying about products, and Mark can talk about that after the presentation, I'm sure. Anything else?
So Ward, we've got one more minute. People can send questions to you, I imagine?
Yep. They can send me questions. They can ask for an account. I just need their email address and their phone number and their full name and what college they're from. And we just send them an email back with here's your account and here's your password. They can go in and upload. They can look at everything. Here, it's as easy as filling this out and clicking add product, and it's there. Bulk upload, just so you know, is a CSV file that asks the information. You have to fill everything in, or else it will not upload that line. But you can just bulk load everything into a CSV, upload it, it'll automatically upload it and assign it to your school. So that's as hard as the product is. These are the users in case you're interested in who's currently using it. We have a few. But.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. And I had sent you, I just sent you an email in case there's a link that you can share back that I can add to the LLC agenda at least. When you have time, you could take a look.
Which link? To the site?
Yeah, you could just send, if that's a link that you can share, something that we can see.
No one can log in, but without the login, but I can send you guys the link if you want.
Contact information to get access, I think would be more useful. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, so 10-minute break. Please come back at 3 o'clock for the last hour of our afternoon joint session. Thank you.
I know. Well, anyway, yes, no. Oh, yeah. Cool. I'll clean up my desk. Yep, no problem.
So this machine here is connected to both monitors. It's also connected to our audience conferencing. Okay. So when you share your screen, that way I'll still be able to see it as well. Did you need anything? You should go on because otherwise no one online. We probably got. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I would think you can just pop it in here. It's got PowerPoint on it. Turn it off.
Yeah, so we're done at 4. The cutoff is clear at 4. Get your started and go. So Patrick and Aaron have kept us on.
That's right.
All day long.
That is right.
Are you doing this for dinner? You know what it is? Yeah.
You're welcome to take control.
Yeah, maybe I'm gonna just get some links set up here.
Yeah, that's really fine. You're on Zoom, so your audience is here. So just,
Okay.
I don't know if you're sharing your screen.
Yeah, I'll just try to bring up some of my bookmarks quick here. Cool. All right. Yeah, so I don't have to type in these very long URLs. Okay. I'll just do it one more. Yeah, you can go ahead. Yeah. How's it going? Good. Oh yeah. There's a lot of signs with balloons that really made it. Yes.
And where do you work at?
Yeah.
And you work mostly on the pre-sale side?
Yep. Yep. So my title solutions architect. So the product demos and all that good stuff. So you guys help.
If you show without a lot of this. I used to work with one.
Oh, okay.
So I know Blake and
Okay, gotcha.
other people involved, but they become contractors.
No, that was actually before I joined the team.
Okay. Have you been in it for a while?
Yeah, I actually came over from a serial solutions side. Yeah, I've been with Pro basically.
Do you guys know that you talked to me private back?
Not in person.
Oh, Leslie.
Yeah. Yeah, we've talked. Hi, Leslie. I'm Nate. Yeah, good to meet you. And this is Steven.
Good afternoon. Hello. Welcome back. Please find your way to your seats. We have our presenters ready. Thank you for coming back.
Hi, I'm Christy Flynn from Pierce College. And so 29 of the 34 community and technical college libraries use Ex Libris Primo and Alma as our library services platform, our integrated library services. And at a meeting last May, a year ago May, everybody came back really jazzed about a new Ex Libris product called Leganto that would help us bridge Canvas with library resources, help us discover our library resources. So we were really excited. So we did a demo. And at the end of the demo, we were a little less jazzed because, one, it wasn't free. Two, it wasn't like plug and play and immediately usable. And three, it was going to require a great deal of collaboration between us as library and e-learning and all of the faculty who use Canvas. And so Pierce College was the only one who went forward at that moment in time to implement. So Leslie Caldwell, our systems and instruction librarian, is here. And Ben Morrow from our e-learning department is there. And then we have Wade from the Washington Community and Technical Colleges Library Consortium here. So we thought this meeting was the next opportunity that we would have like the players in the table who could, in the room who could really talk about this product. And so Nate and Steve from Ex Libris are here to do a brief demo for us to get our heads around what this could potentially mean for us, and then for us to ask them a heck of a lot of questions.
All right, thanks. Yes, I heard your question already. Sure, yeah. How's that? Better? Great. Okay, so I have a very quick introductory PowerPoint. My name is Nate Tarosky. I'm the Regional Account Manager for Ex Libris for the Northwest region. And I'm joined by Stephen Gillespie, who is a Senior Solutions Architect. Both of us, just by way of brief background, we came from the Serial Solutions side of our business. This is our agenda today, so we'll spend about 10 minutes in introductions. Just give you a little context, kind of place it in the context of your consortium and how it aligns with your strategic initiatives. I did want to start off to give you a very high-level view of what Leganto is. So we know initially what we're talking about here. Chrissy described it well as a bridge between the LMS and the library system, but really it's all about the student. It's all about your end users and ensuring that we're removing barriers to access for the students, ensuring that they have the best chance of achieving success in their learning environments. We'll spend about 20 minutes at a live demo, and then the balance of our time we'll have for open Q&A. So if we want to have discussion, if you have specific questions, we welcome those. We have a product expert here in Stephen, and we'll do our best to address anything that you want to talk about. So just initially, we'll look at Leganto specifically in the context of serving our community college customers. So we view Leganto, and I don't know if anyone got the preliminary, kind of the pre-homework that we sent out. This came from our site that we have tailored toward the community college audience. So we're looking at Leganto as a way to provide a modern, intuitive end-user experience. I mentioned lowering barriers to access to materials. There's a diverse array of learning resources now that are included in your course materials on learning, on these reading lists or resource lists. Creating a dynamic, interactive learning experience for students is critical now. Lowering students' spending while providing the best materials possible. Providing analytics. So how do we provide kind of data points where you can make better decisions around collection, development, management of resources? And then promoting visibility of and access to this diverse set of resources. We all know that the scope of resources is much broader now in terms of what's being used in courses today, and that can include, hopefully, open access materials and OER as well. So what is Leganto? This is a quick view, and you'll see this live as well, of the user interface for Leganto. So it provides instructors with a way to engage with students in a software interface. So we're just providing the software where the students can go in, access all the course materials in one spot. It facilitates engagement or communication between the faculty or instructors and the students, and as well as between the faculty and the librarians. So you can really have a lot of support built into that and user engagement. It's a very modern user interface adapted to student expectations and their requirements today. It's responsive, and again, Stephen will show you that live. Looking at this sort of in a diagram here, this places it within the overall academic ecosystem, so you can see where it fits. So on the left-hand side, you've got the learning management system. So this would connect with Canvas via an LTI connection. So the Leganto interface can be embedded directly in Canvas. So where your student logs into their course page, they'll have a link directly to Leganto. It opens it up in the same frame. So they don't have to learn a different environment. They don't have to log in separately. It's really right there in the same interface for them. And then it also connects with a few other areas. We won't spend too much time on this initially, but it connects with the library's discovery service and then also the library management system, ALMA. So I took a little time and researched your strategic technology plan to kind of see where Leganto would fit in there. If we aligned with your strategic initiatives, it could support with this service. And this is what I came up with. So looking at the plan goal, mobilize technology to increase student success. I underlined a few principles here: make better use of data to drive decision making and improve both student success and administrative efficiency. So we'll see how Leganto can help in these areas specifically. Implement system-wide software, hosting services that are cost-effective, easily integrated, user-friendly, and constantly improving. Cultivating a culture and practice of using and contributing to open educational resources. So again, we see alignment here with the Leganto service on the ALMA platform. So we'll show you how it can support these different areas. And then finally, strategically, we're looking at creating a single system-wide suite of online teaching and learning tools that provides all Washington students with easy access to anywhere, anytime learning. A few points about the rising cost of course materials. We're looking here at a study from 2017 from Wakefield Research, and they came up with a figure of $1,200 as the average student spend on textbooks per year. The time the study was done, the textbook costs had increased 812% since '78, and 85% of students said that they delayed or avoid purchasing textbooks. And I found this study here from actually your colleagues, Che and Jenkins, from 2015. Call it qualitative, I won't read this in this full time. Are either of the authors of the study in the room currently? I'm gonna ask you to read the title for me. But a few points that I found really fascinating here, and I did go through and read the study to see again if we could support some of the challenges that were addressed in this study. I found that they said the community colleges have been the gateway to post-secondary education, of course, for economic disadvantaged students. We know that there are high percentages of first-generation college students going to community colleges, and students, non-traditional students of different skill levels, and certainly different levels of sophistication in terms of their research skills and what they're bringing into their college experience. 44% of low-income students choose to attend community college. Nearly 70% of these students reported that they chose community college for affordability reasons. So we can see how critical learning affordability is in today's environment. Of course, this was back in 2015. The College Board estimated that the average tuition and fees here, so we see $3,347, and the supplies costed $1,328, equivalent to almost 40% of overall tuition cost. So this really is a significant barrier that was identified in this study. So when we're looking at Leganto, of course, it is a way to capture and deliver access to all of the resources that your instructors want to make available for their courses. But we are seeing more diversity in the types of materials. And we're looking at ways that we could also push new types of materials. I know developing OER and highlighting those is a big initiative in Washington State and the Northwest in general. So again, this is from the same study among participants who indicated that they used OER in their teaching practice. The types of websites that they visit to search for OER were varied. YouTube was clearly the most frequent used source for OER. So we need a tool that enables faculty and instructors to very easily capture and include these types of materials now in their reading lists. This gives you a view of Leganto, where the instructor can go out on the web, find the resources that they want to include in their resource list, and easily capture that and add it to their list. In this case, we're looking at an article that the instructor has found. They can open up what we call the Cite It button. So you can see here, this little panel on the right-hand side says add this to my list. In this case, we found a resource from a scholarly database. And notice in green here, it says that this is already covered by your library. So what we're doing is we're driving our faculty and instructors to library resources first and foremost, so you can optimize use of what the library already subscribes to. Again, these are things that will be freely available to the students. Thinking of open educational resources, we can take advantage of these materials right off the bat by, again, going and capturing them and adding them very easily into the Leganto reading list. And in this case, you can see that we're harvesting the metadata, capturing it, and adding that directly into the reading list. And then you can add in a public note here. In this case, it's a Creative Commons license. We also include an analytics component. So sort of an unprecedented way now to measure the level of student engagement with the resource list. So you can see, have students mark something as liked or marked it as read, and see what they're clicking on in the resource list. And again, Stephen will show this to you live. And then finally, I'll wrap up with a few customer stories here just to demonstrate the types of experiences and values and benefits that Leganto customers are realizing currently. So here we've got a few points from a video that we've posted on our website of Blake at Washington State University. So he says that some of the reasons that they selected Leganto were the modern UI or user interface. It's responsive, it's mobile ready. They're looking to reduce costs for students by, again, driving students to the library resources as a first stop. They're looking for integration, that kind of seamless integration with the LMS, and then also providing more seamless workflows for library staff to support the instructors by using that Alma integration. Here's another story, this time from University of Windsor. And in this case, they're looking to reduce barriers to providing course materials to students, facilitating the use of the library collection again, providing this excellent user experience. And then in that case, they're also interested in helping manage course resource copyright. And so there are ways to indicate that and enforce compliance within the Leganto interface if you choose to do that. And then finally, here at University of St. Thomas, they found Leganto to be an excellent tool for fostering collaboration between departments. So collaboration between faculty and library staff, lowering student spending on course materials, again, by using the library resources first and foremost, and then also providing a way to find and capture open access and OER resources. They're saving money on unused licensed content using a pay-per-use model that we provide, and then allowing flexibility in lists, determining how these lists are customized or created by faculty. So it provides a very flexible model for faculty to create these lists. And then finally, improving alignment with university objectives. All right. So at this point, I'll hand it over to Stephen for the live demonstration. Thank you.
Can I use this one? This on too? All right. Somebody will let me know if I'm screaming into this or not. It's okay. All right. All right. Oops. Get out of here.
Can I ask?
Passing of the torch from the previous to the current chair of the library's leadership council. That being the torch. It has 5 different light-up features.
Really?
We could give you guys a demo of it later.
Okay. We'll wait on that 4 o'clock.
All right. Thank you very much, everybody. Appreciate you hanging in there today. I know it's the end of the day and it's nice and sunny outside, so try not to look out the window quite yet. And yeah, well, thank you for having us, and thank you everyone online as well. So you've got a little background on Leganto. We know that it serves the entire institution, from the student to the instructor to the library. By the way, how many librarians are in the room? Okay, that's a good chunk. I didn't know how much I should talk about the library side of this today, but I will mention it a bit. So in the brief time we have, I'd like to show Leganto from the perspective of some of our major stakeholders here, the student and the instructor. So I'll start out from the student perspective, and let's just imagine that I'm a new student at college. This is my first year in college. Like many students, I'm also working a job, stay very active with friends and family, so I have a lot going on. And, you know, I kind of like to set the stage this way because Leganto is all about two major things. First one is removing barriers for students, and then also improving the interaction with these students and resume share. We good now? Okay. So yeah, the two main points with my screen sharing is paused.
Just do it. Yeah, stop sharing. Share.
Okay. Zoom.
Share.
Good. Thank you, and that's all I have for today. How to successfully share your screen with a group. All right, so yeah, once again, you know, with Leganto, removing barriers, improving that interaction with the course and with the resource, improving the communication between the instructor and the student in the library. This is what it's about. So I'm going to start off logged in here. I'm actually logged into Canvas. As Nate mentioned, this is a key point, right? Because when you talk about initial barriers, just using a different interface can be one of them. So here I'm logged into Canvas. I don't have to remember another username and password to get into Leganto, so I'm not blocked by authentication. I'll actually go to the student view here. And the interface is very modern and intuitive, so I'm not needing to learn how to use a separate tool just to access my resource list. Scroll out here. Sorry, I'm being blocked by the, there we go. Okay. So the first thing you'll notice with the Leganto interface is that it's a modern looking interface and it's responsive, which basically means, you know, if I drag it out here, I can resize it and it'll adjust accordingly, right? So regardless of the device you're on, if you're on a tablet or a laptop or a mobile device, it'll scale accordingly. No separate mobile interface to maintain. So whichever device your users are on, it's going to look great. Now, just to orient you here to the screen, I'm still within Canvas here. And on the left-hand side, I've got my Canvas links. Down the center is my course description and my resources. And along the right-hand side are the additional ways Leganto helps me engage with my course. Please.
So those links on the right side, are those in Leganto or are those diving back into Canvas?
These are part of Leganto.
Okay, so you're creating two steps, like a separate space for student discussion from, say, the one.
There is one, yeah. But I think what's key here with particularly with the student discussion is that you can engage with the course directly at a higher level, but you can also have course discussions directly at the level of the resource. So everything really is kept in one place at the point of need. And I'll come back in a moment to this right-hand panel here because I really do think this is kind of a game changer for students. Looking at my resource list here, I can see I have a variety of resource types. I have reference entries, books, articles, book chapters. So online items, print items, videos, images, these are all kept in the same place. Now from here, I can simply click on a resource and be brought to it. I'll start out with this book chapter. And here's a great example of how Leganto, excuse me, how Leganto can support OER initiatives. This is a book chapter from the Open Textbook site. I have different options for viewing the resource. I can download the PDF. I can actually view the actual document here within Canvas. And I can also navigate to the link online. So different ways to view it, which is great for accessibility. You can also see the copyright license right here at a glance, and additional notes from my instructor related to the resource. And as I noted, if we want to have discussion about a particular resource, it's kept really tightly at the point of need here. Okay. Now, there's a lot of resources here. Maybe this is overwhelming. I can see I have my work cut out for me as a new student. I have really intuitive options to filter my list as well. So in this way, it's, you know, we're really far removed from just a static syllabus at this point of citations. Not only do I have all of the resources in one place, I can filter, I can keep notes, I can add tags, I can keep all of my information related to my homework in this place, and Leganto can help me stay organized. So I can filter by section, I can filter by tags that the instructor has added, right? And you can, you know, if you want to come up with best practices and use these across the entire institution so they're consistent, you can do that. But let's say I don't have time to go through all my readings today. I just want to get set up for the week. I can filter by just the essential readings. I'll come back to the extra credit later on. I can filter by types, content types. So if I'm going to be in the library and I need to pick up my print books, I can quickly see which ones are available. Or if I've had a long day and I just can't bear to read another page, but I still need to get some work done, maybe I can just view my videos tonight. And then other, you can also filter on inputs that you've added there as a student. So you can keep track of what you've read and what you haven't read already, and then filter on that later on. Now, like I said, there's many different resource types. Most of these are online. Some of them are available in print as well. Along the right-hand side here, I have different ways to stay engaged with the course. I can see my instructor list, I can see upcoming due dates, student discussion, and suggestions. I want to pause for a moment on this upcoming due dates option. Just a quick sidebar, I recently did a certificate course at the UW, and they used Canvas there without Leganto. And I consider myself a pretty good student and pretty experienced, but I myself had challenges just finding the resources I had to use and the due dates. They were using Canvas, but the instructor was all over the place. Some links were in different sections. Some of the links were embedded in Word documents. A lot of links didn't work. So I would have loved something like this. And I was commenting to Nate on the way up, a tool like this, I don't think could even fully be appreciated by a new student today if this is their first exposure to resource lists, right? Because you think of in the past, you'd have had a resource list and maybe a citation, you have to hunt that down on your own. But here, I can see exactly what to do and when I need to do it by. And if I click this, I'm not just getting to the citation, I can actually go and view the link online.
Can I just, is there a uniform approach to providing reading lists across the colleges? Or is it I mean, is what Stephen describes there, does it resonate with some of your experience in terms of how instructors are providing resources? So these links to online resources could be, there could be a module within Canvas, it could have it embedded in a PDF or a Word document.
Yes, you should definitely decide to do. It is up to them.
So you can see I clicked right through to the article.
Question with the mic over there. Couldn't hear on this side of the room.
Yeah, oh, sorry. Yeah, the question was, is what I described similar to what you experience here at your college? Is there enforced consistency for the instructors to use lists in the same way? And it sounds like they're kind of free to construct them how they see fit. So even if you're using Canvas, I personally even found it a challenge just to find what I was supposed to do and when. So you see the link, I went straight to it. And broken links is always an issue if the instructor is using an old list, they have URLs from years ago. Maybe the library subscriptions have changed. What are you going to do when you have the assignment due and the first time you're looking at it is with that generic or the static citation? But we know these links are going to work because they came right from the library. This is completely integrated with Alma and Primo, so whatever the library is using will be used here, including authentication options. So it's ready to go. If it doesn't work for some reason, there's this option to mark it as broken, and that will send a task directly to the librarian in Alma so they can fix it. And when it's fixed in Alma, it's fixed here as well. Right. And one last thing here, viewing the list as the student, also have the ability to add suggestions. And a lot of instructors like to recommend or even require that students offer additional reading suggestions. It's a great way for them to stay engaged, show that they're thinking about the course outside of class, and for the instructor to get recommendations for what they might want to use in the future. Now I'll exit the student view and show you the instructor side of it. And you'll see it looks almost identical. Just a few differences here. The first is you'll notice this list advisor on the top. This really helps with adoption because it helps instructors to construct useful lists that have a variety of resource types that are diverse nature. So not just limiting themselves to textbooks or certain articles, right? And you get this little trophy and the percentage icon. That's what we call gamification, which can help encourage people to, take action, make the list better. In addition to communicating with the students, with the student discussion, they can also communicate directly with the library here. And this can be very useful. Again, you think about the idea of keeping everything in one place. Consider how much time you spend looking in email, tracking down what the action item is. So here, the library can communicate directly with the instructor regarding the resource that they're talking about. So if you're working on perhaps finding more OER resources that fit the course, you can communicate that here. If you just have a general question for the instructor, you can ask them right at the point of need. And pay-per-use information. This is an option in Leganto if you want to utilize it. Leganto can help you find available pay-per-use licenses when applicable, right? So if you do need to pass a cost on to the student, you can utilize a model like this. So perhaps instead of buying the entire textbook, if you need one chapter and there's no free option, maybe a pay-per-use is a useful way to do it. And that's totally up to the institution if this is the way you want to go. Now, Nate mentioned metrics and analytics. I think, it's fair to say we live in a data-driven world, right? Of data-driven decision-making. I think one obvious prerequisite for making decisions based on data is to have the data. So Leganto really does offer some unprecedented insight here. At a glance, for each of these resources, I can see the number of comments, how many people like the item, and how many views it has. It might seem, odd to think of likes in terms of scholarly work and homework, but I think this can be a very useful feature because a lot of students are used to interacting with technology in this way, but also at a glance, it gives the instructor insight to say what they liked, right? So if you like an item, please add the like button. If you don't like it, don't say you don't like it. Let's see some interesting comments, right? So at a glance, I can see this data, but I can also see the list analysis that's updated daily. So instructors can see this for all of their courses at a glance. And it'll show me resource by resource. Is this big enough for everyone to see it? Here, okay. Some yes, some no. Let's see. I'll zoom in a bit. Okay. So you can see basic metrics at a glance, right? I can see the number of active students, the total views, the student engagement percentage, number of comments, likes, and how many people read it. And I can see this, it's updated regularly while the course is in session. Now we also have more advanced metrics as well that are completely integrated and tied to the Alma platform. So here I can go to my course. And I can see over time how my resource lists are being used. So I can see how much they're being used and when they're being used. And I don't have to wait till the course is over until I get the grades out and I see the surveys to understand how the course is going. So it seems like there might be, you know, very empowering to be able to make changes to make sure the students are succeeding while the course is in session.
Quick question related to this, maybe, I don't know, Mike, maybe key in. But I noticed earlier, something I hadn't noticed before, students can indicate if they've read something. And so it must track that individual student's reading based on how they logged into Canvas. Am I correct?
Are you referring, so the question?
On the reading list, you show where a student can indicate, oh, I've read this, or I've not read this.
Right, so yeah, the student, so the question is regarding the views, or if students have indicated if they read it.
Right.
Yeah.
Is that information available to the faculty in this? Like, can I see, oh, Wade read these things or hasn't read these things? So maybe I tap Wade on the shoulder or.
Right, right. You can see the data in aggregate, and you can see how many views there are and the percentage of the students. We do take great lengths to anonymize data in Alma. So it might be a institutional policy if at what level you want to track that.
Yeah, but am I correct in believing that Leganto will save my information that I indicate I've read this or I haven't read this?
So you're not indicating if you've read it, it's measuring the actual views of the pages.
Well, I thought I saw on the list where, I can ask you this later.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, no, it's a good question. And students can indicate if they like something, and that's kind of the voluntary submission. And the views are actually tracked based on the click-throughs and actually viewing the article. Yeah. So, you know, if you think previously, how would you have been able to track usage of a resource list from the library? By going through Leganto, you're enabling the capture of those metrics of seeing exactly how libraries materials are being used and from which resource lists and from which courses. So here's just an example page from the analytics, and you can see a variety of data here for courses that are actually in progress. So the number of active students, the activity score, number of participants. And of course, you can track this over time, right? So if you have the entire institution using it, you can compare metrics side by side because everything's being recorded in the same way. You can track this over time. And you can get more detailed metrics such as the number of non-library materials that are being used, right? So you can make a direct connection to the student outcomes and usage, as well as collection management decisions of how you want to spend money, and even be able to track how much you've saved over time. All right, so I will move on quickly now. I showed you a list from the student perspective as well as from the instructor perspective for the same list that's already been created. Now I'd like to go and show you just how quick and easy it is to create a list from scratch. Actually, I'll just log back in. Try this again. Sorry, guys. Right.
Step one is you have to remember your campus.
Browning. Browning. Gmail.com. INST. All right. Sorry, guys. Live TV here. I'm not on my home my home turf. Goodness. Browning. INSTE. All right. Let's hear it from me. We're typing an email. You know, let's see. All right. Okay, so I showed you a resource that already exists, and I'll show you now just how easy it is to add resources to it. All I have to do is click the Add the Items button here, right? And from here, I can easily search the library's holdings. So off the bat, the instructor is encouraged to use the library's resources by actually doing a Primo search here. So I'll create a new section here. Extra credit. All right, and you see I have the section here. I find the resource I need from the library. I just simply drag it over to the section. Okay, and you see it says being prepared, and now it says complete. And say view online. So I can see right here, this is an open access resource as well. Full text is available through the library subscription, and I've just added it to my list. I can, of course, create my own citations if I wanted to upload my own document or create a citation from scratch. I can certainly do that. I can also utilize the My Collection feature. So if you've already been encouraging your instructors and students to use Primo as a search interface, they can save items to that account, and they'll be accessible here in Leganto as well. So this can save a lot of time if they've already been managing their citations within the library, simply reference them that way as well. And again, you just drag them over. Here's a book, I can drag that as well. Now here, since this is a print book, it's available within the library. I can actually place a digitization request right from here. And this will send a request directly to the librarian to proceed. Okay, yeah. So, and then the licensing can happen automatically, right? According to rules you've set. So if it falls within under fair use and it's one chapter or wherever the case may be, this can be approved automatically. Or if you want an intermediary step where the librarian needs to review it, you can go that route as well. So a few examples there, and show you one more thing here. Let's see. Cold War. Okay, so here, in the user menu, I can also use the Cite It button, right? And all I need to do is drag this bookmarklet to my toolbar just like that, and now I have the Cite It available. So when I go to an external site, here's an example of a TED Talk. I just click that Cite It button, and Leganto will load automatically, pull the citation details, and allow me to add it to my resource list and the section that I just created. I click Add and Close, and the full citation is available with the link. Now, if instructors are using their own URLs, maybe an article that they have access to outside of the library, and they just have a static URL, you can use Cite It here as well. So I click the button, it loads, and you'll see it actually checks to see if it was available in my library. You can see right here at the top, covered by the library. And again, I just select the list, History of the Cold War, and the section, Add and Close. And if you're encouraging your instructors to use open access or the open textbook site, they can go there as well. I know there's a lot of places they can go, and this will help them easily pull the resources in. And they're updated in real time. You'll see, if I scroll down, under extra credit, all these resources I just added are available here and accessible. This is all communicating directly with Alma in real time, so the librarian doesn't even have to wait till this is complete to start working on it.
Can you show the ability to export the list of citations too?
Sure, let me see here. So you have a number of options here. You can export the whole list to Word file, PDF, Excel, or even an LGN, which is a Leganto file, which will allow you to load it right into Leganto. And once the instructor creates this list, they can roll it over course after course, making changes along the way as well. And that's about all I have. I think now if there's any questions, we can, yeah.
Curious about adding due dates, attaching discussions to it. How does that work?
Sure. The question was about adding due dates and student discussions as well. So the due date, there is a direct connection between Leganto and Alma. So when you add a new course, you associate it with the course. So since the courses have already been loaded in your library system, Leganto knows the start and end date of the course, as well as how many students are there. When you add a resource, you can add the due date specifically to that. When you create a new list, you can actually use a template that might be a weekly template and allow you to pull in dates that way. But lacking everything else, you can go into an item and just simply, whoops, clicking too fast. You can simply add the due dates right here, item by item.
I've got another question. This one's for Nate, I think. When you were talking, Nate, you mentioned save money on unused license content. Was that referring specifically to licenses for ProQuest content, or what exactly did you mean by that?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
Oh, when you mentioned in your presentation, the opening remarks, you mentioned save money on unused license content. It was a bullet point that you read, and I understand licenses that
that are sort of pay per use, but how does Leganto tie into that? And since you guys are part of ProQuest, is that specific to ProQuest?
There are a few aspects of the Leganto service that contribute to cost savings, potentially for the institution as well as for the students. So what we found is that oftentimes students may not read everything that's on the reading list at times, unfortunately. However, if an institution chooses to, they can activate our pay-per-use model within Leganto, and so the student can pay for an item at the point of need, or if the institution picks up the cost of that, then the library might license that specifically for that individual student. So you're saving money in that way. You're not having to purchase access for the entire class, regardless of whether the student happens to read that item. Other ways that we look at cost savings within Leganto, again, trying to optimize use of library licensed resources or library provided materials. So we looked at ways that Leganto automatically indicates to the faculty member that the license has this content within the collection, and they can very easily just add that into their reading list. There's some other aspects of it as well, making it easy to use OER, open access materials, flagging those too. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I was thinking something more complicated, like there was actually real-time information between Leganto and the vendor, which I thought, oh, would have to be ProQuest. But anyways, yeah, that.
Yeah, just one other point on that. One of our customer stories was from the University of St. Thomas. Greg Arno there has done a lot of work implementing Leganto and facilitating access and working very closely with other departments. One of the things that he did there is he went into the bookstore and pulled a course pack off the shelf and analyzed the resources in that. He found that about 70% of those items were already available within the library's collection, just in their standard course pack that costs $100. 20% or so were available openly, so through open access materials, and the balance they were able to digitize through fair use. So he took a $100 course pack to zero just by using the Leganto service.
Is that look at all customizable? And the reason I ask is because our students are used to seeing Canvas a specific way, and this might be a bit confusing. I know I don't have a microphone, so I guess you have to.
Yes, is the interface customizable simply because students are used to Canvas looking a certain way and might be confused? There are some options for accessibility. You can change the color and the layout. Otherwise, it's kind of meant to blend in. Is there anything specific you would like to see, or?
No, I mean, when I look at students' Canvas, over on the side, we've got that bar on the right side. On my right, yeah, my right. That's where they would see discussion posts and upcoming assignments and stuff, and that's not what they're seeing there.
Gotcha.
So I see that it might be a bit confusing to a student saying, hey, I got nothing coming up. I got no this, because what they're seeing is not their Canvases. That's all.
I see.
I wanted to just.
Well, I was going to just say that here's follow-up. So if you have specific implementation questions, there's someone who's in that process. So if you have any questions for Leslie, who's actually implementing it at Pierce at the moment, questions would be great for her too. She's capable of answering all of them.
Yeah, you showed something about collections, like individual faculty collections or something like that. What is that, and is that something that they store at the library? Is that
So
like an
it's
OER database?
Sure, it's tied directly to the Primo site. So if you're using Primo for searching articles, you can save your citations there. It's tied to your library card account. So students, instructors can always go in there, save, you know, whatever book citations, article citations. It's all saved to that account, and that communicates directly with Leganto. So that will be accessible here as well. And it works for students as well as instructors. So if you want to recommend materials or add them to your lists, you can do that as well. So just another way that can be good to encourage instructors to be using the library resources. And for students, they can carry that with them for every year that they're in the college as well.
What's the accessibility compliance of the Leganto interface and the materials that students and faculty can access in it? It's like WCAG level, et cetera.
Sure. We have all of the details available online that you should be able to find with a Google search of Leganto. Pro tip, by the way, if you're using Alma and Primo, all of our documentation is freely available online, and you can find it pretty easily with a Google search. I believe it's, so yeah, we have a VPAT for Leganto, and you can see the specific details. So this was updated in February 2019. So if you have specific, like if there are specific points of the WCAG.
So most of us are hovering somewhere around WCAG 2.0 level AA compliance required for stuff we're buying. So that's what I'm looking for. It said it's level A only? Okay. Is there a roadmap for AA?
I'm not sure. I think there is. I have to check on it. But I mean, we take, as far as the accessibility goes, when we get specific like requirements from customers, we do kind of look at those and then get the roadmap out accordingly. That's the case for all of our products. So I know we're always working to improve it. Sure. Yeah, and yeah.
I mean, if you're looking for a specific request, WCAG level 2.0 AA, probably moving to 2.1 in the next year. And we can't sign otherwise.
Yeah, in my experience, a lot of our VPATs cover most of the major points because there's a lot that aren't necessarily applicable to every software. But yeah, we'll definitely. It's an important point.
So I realize this is an add-on that has a cost and everything, but would this be a separate procurement from our current contract, or would it be an amendment to a current contract?
Why don't you repeat that? So the question was, would this be a separate contract, or could it be added as an amendment to your existing agreement? And it would be the latter. So, and depending on how you chose to procure it, there are sort of incentives to working as a system, and we can certainly negotiate that with you. I'm happy to, follow up offline too with specific questions. Another point that we really haven't discussed yet, just briefly, there are some institutions, University of New South Wales comes to mind, who choose to use Leganto as a way to provide open access, sort of as a platform to provide access to their resources. So they allow users from the community or whomever to link directly from their website into Leganto, so you can see subject-based reading lists or material type-based reading lists. So if you are producing and distributing open access materials, just as an idea, this is something that UNSF or UNSW is doing currently. Yes.
Can you name some of the community? Thanks. For those online, this is Mindy talking from Skagit. Can you name some of the community colleges? Because you gave demos of universities. Are there some community colleges?
Well, so we can follow up with you and provide you a list of references. So if you're looking specifically at, community colleges, of course, that would be something I can get back to you on. The universities that we cited would be customers who are farther along in the implementation. Leganto has been around for a few years now. So these are more mature sites that we've documented and have kind of case studies developed for, so we can use them in terms of kind of analyzing why they selected them and what kind of value they're getting from the service.
So we're funded quite a bit differently from universities. That's why I brought that up.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, on that note, now that we're talking about money, it is after 4, so thank you, Nate and Stephen, for the presentation.
You're welcome.
I imagine that you'll be available if people have questions. We're going to officially adjourn the meeting today.
So I don't know how many of you are aware, but Northwest eLearn is going to be in Bend October 17th and 18th, I think. I noticed our schedule is up on the Northwest eLearn page, nwelearn.org. If you click on conference and scroll all the way down to the bottom, there's a link to the schedule. If you want to go check that out. I think we still have early bird rates on. They're actually going to go through the beginning of September, so people getting back to school can book then. But why not book now and get your hotel room and so on and so forth. So Bend, Oregon, I'm looking forward to that. And so that's number one. And number two, on a personal note, is anybody going to back to Squim right after this meeting? I might need a ride. Just contact me.
Are there any other announcements before we adjourn?
Sure. So there's a couple of us who are fixing to go hiking up at the Deer Park Ranger Station trailhead. If you're interested, come see me. The downside is you're probably not going to be back in time for dinner because it's going to take like half an hour just to drive there. But if you're interested, come find me.
Okay, thanks, Mark. Anybody else?
Hi. So just one quick thing about dinner. I did check with the restaurant, and because we're finishing up early, if you are going to dinner tonight with us down to Hibachi, go whenever you like. They're ready now. So 4:30-ish is fine. It's, as I say, it's a hibachi dinner. It's at 134 West Front Street. So.
And for those who are interested, Sam is going to be giving a library tour immediately after this meeting. Have a good evening.
Oh, sure. Let me bring it back up.
So you had the password saved on your laptop, but you're on it.
No,
you don't have access to your password manager.
Yeah, you don't realize how dependent you are on it until you don't have it.
Yeah, I mean, for most of us, we've got accessibility policies.
So, resource list.
So you look at marking well, you went to filter. I think you were talking about the filter today. Well, like when you what is that? Is that the check that the student?
Yeah.
So does that information live after you log off and log back on?
Yeah, for the students.
Yeah, for the student. So is that stored like in Leganto and it's not visible within all the student record?
Right, exactly.
So then is it the kind of thing like with circulation where there's an anonymization job that you can schedule for that data, or where?
Right. So
I'm wondering, is it visible, and could I run a report in analytics about, did this user mark this as red?
Right.
And is that so?
Yeah. To my knowledge.
Anonymizable.
Yeah. To my knowledge, this is not being recorded. So what you're at,
It's being stored somewhere, but nobody can get to it.
Yeah, if you're tied to, I guess, their account.
So there's a data table somewhere that is storing that. It's saved to Google audience, but it's not exposed to all my data.
So yeah, the views, however, would be.
Yeah, those things are just incremental counts rather than.
Exactly. So you don't necessarily know if they're ready yet.
Oh, and I was gonna do you do any competitive analysis at all? Or like just even check? Like some of our directors have talked, I was gonna ask it like a question, but you guys on the spot get into a some of them were talking about maybe you might want to look at, or I think what it does is allow specifically just open access to like in the world where people can get. So it's, I think that's kind of what it's purpose built for. And Legato Twitter, that's a subset of what Legato can do. I mean, it might be something to be aware of.
Yeah, I'll take a look at that. I mean, what I'm thinking now with Primo is creating the central discovery index.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Of course, I'm really familiar with the PCI. Just looking at, anything you activate in the PCI is then searchable just within the dedicated search for Primo, right? And I looked, the one that they were talking about in the collection, which is not in the PCI right now, but OpenStack is.
Yeah, so I mean, towards the end of this year, we're in the process of merging the summing indexes. There's over 4 billion records there, and we have open access designation. So, yeah, there's a lot of records that can be searched. And bringing in the open textbook thing, I mean, yeah, that could be.
One of the things I'm curious about is the idea of setting up a dedicated view in Primo to point Legato at, where we can just activate everything in the PCI, just get everything in there we can, so citations that maybe aren't exposed in the regular Primo view or the expand by results is set by default, right? That could be an interesting thing. And also add a WorldCat scope to a Primo. We don't generally do that on a Primo view, but we can do that in that Legato dedicated view. So you can search things that, and just put everything in one scope in that second view. So like WorldCat stuff, So in fact, when you're searching for citations, because it's kind of there's a little bit of friction in the toolbar with the browser tool. The site different. I mean, that's an extra step where they have to go. So.
Yeah, and of course, when you're trying to roll out your group, it's as consistent as possible. You make it as so yeah, I mean, does it seem like it's useful?
The one the site did? Yeah. But I was just thinking how.
Yeah, that's just the one.
It's nice to hear available today, just you don't have to go find the website and search.
Yeah, I think all those are probably safer as expanding it to search the entire index. And then encouraging the search.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's a good point. Right. citations you save Primo on your
I think that's, did you guys use another citation?